Hello, and welcome to Frank's School, 56th day of the 7th year. First video, the making of Resurrection, my wordless movie. And this is the coda and the credits and the end. Finally, it's a long playlist. I may make an afterward. I probably will do an afterward sort of to tack onto this, but here, this would end my screenplay sort of. And I call it a coda. I first ran into that, I think, when I was a high school kid and studying piano and working on Beethoven's Sonata Pathétique, which I never was able to play very well. But at the end of, I think, the first movement, maybe the third too, there's a coda where, you know, it could have ended before that, but there's this sort of brilliant display right at the end of the first movement. That's where I think I ran into that idea of a coda. It's when you tack something on to the end of a work that sort of has a, well, I can't explain it. Anyway, the movie could have ended by now. I mean, if it were done right at the end of Act 5, when Marion is supported and they head back down the hill, he's going to be okay. He's just continuing to get old and failing. And it's kind of resolved. He'll be in the care of Nama and probably Festus too. Now, here's where the timing is critical. If for this coda, I think it would take. I think of Zeffirelli, Franco Zeffirelli. He could have done it to time the camera work and the music in such a way that hearts could be ravaged. The viewers' hearts could be ravaged if this were done right, because there's so much, starting with sort of this gentle joke with Batch that I said about, but their hearts could go on such a roller coaster through this, but it would be quick. So the gentle joke is Festus messing around with these mouthpieces that he's done, and I think I suggested that he could have a baritone horn that he's fooling around. He discovers a baritone horn, a beat up thing, and uses that in the parade. Maybe so, I don't know. But anyway, let's. And this is not absolutely the order, but it's an order that would go. Marion, he's in distress, but not that, but he's recovering. But anyway, into his eyes, as was this would be an echo now. See, that's these effects are piling up. His eyes would go potentially, first of all, to Batch, who's fooling around with a tiny mouthpiece, and the joke would be that all of a sudden he pulls out a piccolo trumpet and plays one of the most difficult things could be played on a trumpet, which is the the beginning of the third movement, or part of the third movement of Bach's Brandenburg Concerto No. 2. It goes bum 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 pa-da-dum pa-da-dum bum bum pa-da-dum pa-da-dum pa-da-dum. But it would have to be just short. It would, because that would not be the main theme here. It would just be a way of announcing that something is going to happen. It was used in Firing Line, I think it was, a television show. That's how most people would know it. All right, so real briefly, and then the camera would have to go, I think, back to Marion and his eyes, and he would look over at the edge of the woods, as he had done at the beginning, and there would be a small group of people, a group at the wood's edge. Then back to Marion's eyes, I guess, and he would look at Festus. And Festus, probably you'd have to have Festus's eyes maybe, and then the camera would zoom to that group. And what that group is, it's his family. That's why he has been so unexplainably sad throughout the whole, as he continued to be so. But there is his family. They are refugees. They had been separated. And I would want them, it's 2 women and 2 children. And I would want the women with a scarf over their head, what do you call it, hijab or something, to indicate that they are Muslim. I think I would want that. But with that zoom, he recognizes his wife, his mother-in-law, and his 2 children. And then here the music would start, which is the most joyous music I think I know from all of Bach's music. Now, possibly you go into Handel's Concerti Grossi or something, there might be something equal, maybe, I don't know. But Cum Sancto Spiritu from the B minor Mass. And anyway, Festus would not exactly drop Marion, but he would leave and he would take off and he would start running. Now he's healed. He's run. This is the man who has limped the whole time. He's been crippled, but he's running, and he would go along the edge of that aqueduct, which I described at the beginning. He would slip in the mud, he'd fall, he'd get all dirty, but he'd scramble up and he'd keep running. That would be an echo of the getting the pickup truck unstuck at the very beginning, but people would probably even hardly notice it. And he would run, and then he would finally get to his family, and here would be this joyous reunion, and probably Festus just screaming out his joy. And there it would end. If I named his family, I would name his wife Evangeline, even though this is Muslim, and I would name his mother-in-law Naomi, which are allusions to sort of wandering women, but they have found Festus. And then I would cut to the credits, and the credits would be as, well, they could go on for as long as you wanted, but the music would be simple gifts. 'Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free. After all this brilliant, dazzling music, that's how I would want to end it, with this reinforcing the idea of voluntary simplicity.